IVM.
Hey everybody, welcome to a very special episode of the Geek Food Podcast. This week it's me, Tejas. I have Jishnu and Dinkar in the studios, plural, because they're three now. What's up, guys?
Hello.
What's up, Tejas? How do you do?
I'm doing just about okay. Just being honest.
Right. So the reason you're doing just about okay, though, is you're exhausted from having gone to a gig yesterday. Is this correct?
I got that post-gig, days on because it ended at an unearthly hour, which is like 4:30 a.m. in the morning.
But
so
Tejas, how did you go to a concert?
Oh, did I not mention? I didn't go anywhere. It was at home. I bought my first ticket ever for a digital concert. For that is the way we do things now. Have you guys ever bought like digital concert tickets? Have you seen in this time period? Have you watched anything that you've paid for, like physically? I mean, digitally, whatever.
No, I've performed stuff that other people have paid for.
But
nice. I have not been a patron myself.
So, I mean, is that because the artists that you want to see are already doing like free kind of shows or are readily available on the web? Or is it because they have just not chosen to do it,
A little bit of both. Like I got to see a couple of people who don't put out stuff too often doing lives for free, like right at the beginning of this. I saw a couple of lives back in like late March, early April. That was really cool.
Okay.
But then, a lot of people just aren't performing. And so that has now just given me more time to dive into watching 3-hour-long movies and,
that's cool.
Stuff like that. Yeah. So
When you say 3-hour-long movies, you mean 6 episodes of Fuller House?
Or one episode of The Irishman?
Do you want to get into this? Rosie 2 is back.
One second.
Just the successor to Rosie 1. What is Rosie 1?
1 second.
It is her car.
No,
Whose car?
my answer
Stephanie's
is no.
car. Where's the car? It's in the kitchen. How is it in the kitchen? Because she went outside. She was going to leave. She threw a fit. She put it in reverse.
Jishnu, I won't
and
understand
went through the
because
wall.
I haven't seen season 5.
I don't know who you're talking about. But
Okay.
This does lead into our topic for today's episode, which is how the coronavirus and COVID-19 situation is impacting the worlds of pop culture and entertainment at a larger scale level. So we've discussed this on some of our other shows, such as the Nerdatorium on YouTube. But let's start with this. The theater chains and the streaming services are getting bitchy with each other.
Yeah, man. And it's becoming local also, right? Because Inox was the latest in the line of theater chains to kind of now stand firmly against those who would choose to deliver their content digitally only.
So just to set some context, what happened was obviously both internationally and in India, studios realizing that there's not much hope of putting out movies in theaters anytime soon, either have the option to sit on those movies and go for a later release date or put them out on streaming services. And in India, Amazon Prime Video kind of snapped up a bunch of movies for release, including some fairly high-profile ones. And internationally, movies like Trolls World Tour, which we were all so excited about, is now going on a world tour of people.
What shade is this for no reason?
I said I was excited about it. Maybe you're reading into your own feelings about it, Tejas.
You're projecting.
You're projecting. Speaking of projecting, Trolls is definitely not projecting because theaters are shut.
Oh gosh. But
anyway,
yes. I wonder. I also add to that list. There was also Sonic. Sonic released in theater. Sorry, it was Scoob that was released digitally as well. Yeah.
Yeah. There's been several. And because of those reasons, Bad Boys, the Bad Boys sequel is currently the highest grossing movie of 2020, Bad Boys for Life. But what has happened
Which I saw,
theaters,
by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I saw it the other, last week, I think I saw it. And
you mean you watched it at home?
Yes, I did watch it at home. It was good.
Cool.
It's quite good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
All
I'll say from that is that Martin Lawrence Man, he's a great actor, dude. That
Oh,
guy,
he's always
I don't
been
know what
great.
happened.
Yeah.
He's so good. He's still great. Anyway,
He was very
moving
compelling
on.
as the other Mrs. Doubtfire in Big Mama's house.
Correct.
Yes,
Anyway.
true.
The titular Big Mama. You see what I did there?
Mm-hmm.
So what has happened is theaters have gotten very sassy about this. Like they feel threatened. They feel like their relationship with the studios. And so far, studios have always protected theaters' interests by insisting on the theatrical release window and kind of combating services like Netflix as
So
a
who was
unit.
it first? It was AMC, right? To say something about
one of the first
Universal?
was AMC, yes, who complained about the fact that Universal had decided to go ahead and release movies on streaming. And that has spread with other theaters saying stuff now, and locally Inox also issuing a statement saying it was very upset with the Indian film industry. The unifying theme, though, has been this like unholy level of sass that the theaters are putting out. Where they're just
so
like,
so much
wow,
shade.
I thought we were friends, but I guess like some movie studios just don't care about their true friends.
You know what's so weird is that Universal went out to put out another letter saying, yo, we didn't mean it like that. It was like watching an ugly breakup, like online.
It was like
and
watching
then
a Mean Girls sequel.
Yeah. And the other thing that happened was like Inox put out the statement, but the only thing I got from that was like, oh, Inox. Yeah, that's a thing.
Right, yeah. I mean, I don't know,
Inox is just
why
like,
they're really
wow,
trying
who do
too
we
much.
charge 800 rupees for a ticket now?
Yeah, because it's like,
Yeah,
I mean,
true.
creators still got to create the things that they be creating. And, while the theater is the ideal, quote unquote, way to watch these things, they're still going to make the movies or still like try to do whatever they can to make things.
Yeah,
That's their end of the
AMC
deal.
has a TV channel.
Yeah, so I mean,
it
like,
already is in that game.
It's the same thing with like, you said you watched a gig last night. Like, the musician would much rather have a real venue, but if they really want to make music as they do, then they're going to do by any means necessary.
Yeah, true.
And that's what they do.
Do you guys think that I mean, of course that theaters and studios have kind of been forced into these separate corners because of the global pandemic situation. But do you think this was a long time coming anyway? Because the streaming versus theater wars have been on for years at this point, and studios have typically resisted, but now even they're giving in.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad that the way the scales have been, kind of tipped over. I mean, it's not unfair. I mean, it is unfair because this is like a natural phenomena that has kind of essentially driven theaters to this point. But I don't know if they needed to react so vehemently, especially when people said that they want to maintain their relationships with theaters. I mean, everybody loves. I mean, especially us here, man, we got it easy because theaters are so cheap to go to in India, relatively speaking, as in context of the rest of the world. So for us, going to the theater is something that we do often. We and we enjoy it, like quite regularly. So I don't know why. If you are a theater enthusiast, do you think it's because people are anyway kind of go on their way out of going to theaters just generally, like maybe it's our generation of being introverts or whatever it is, staying at home and watching movies is more, and because they've never grown up. I mean, like maybe the new generation, like Gen Z or whatever, has not grown up, going to the theater as often as maybe previous generations who didn't have a choice, like on-demand viewing. So they're trying to, basically companies are capitalizing on that.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's secretly the popcorn companies that are like, yo, who the hell are we going to sell to now? Because that's where they make their money.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Especially considering, like you're saying, ticket prices are really cheap over here, comparatively speaking. That's where you make the money, right? Your popcorn is more expensive than the ticket. So now,
absolutely,
not only do the folks get to watch the movies for almost free by watching it on a streaming service, they also spend approximately 0 rupees on concessions because
crazy. We're never going to go back to E Square. That means,
yeah,
so sad.
All right, spectacular food court. But speaking of E Square, I think you guys are right in the sense that we are probably the last generation that only had the option of going to theaters, really. So I know all of us have gone to movies just for the sake of it, right? Movies that there was no reason to, like, we treated going to the theater as flipping through channels. We'd be like, what's on this week? Chalo, let's go check it out. And I think most movies are like that. Like at least 60% of movies aren't essential theater watches, really.
Yeah.
Because they're average at best. And so this is kind of going to, I mean, it's the facts, man.
No,
it's the law of averages.
That's true.
Law of averages would mean 50%.
No, whatever. We're not math guys, as we know. Okay, so I think now that people have the option of watching not great movies at home, they are going to lean more on that. So I don't know, maybe we'll see an eventual era where movie theaters are like a premium thing, where you pay INOX or more than INOX prices to go watch movies you really want to watch in the theaters, and everything else you watch at home.
Yeah,
Could be.
I
Like
think
maybe they won't
movie
be as
theaters.
big anymore. Like they just
Yeah,
won't accommodate as many people, and they up the premium price, and then like hopefully the seats aren't as sticky and things like that, and like it
yeah.
becomes like a luxury product, which I mean could
Yeah, man, they need to do more
potentially
like
work,
programming kind of things.
maybe.
Yeah, like how they did marathons and stuff, how they do that stuff in the US. They make an event out of the movie theater experience, right? Because first of all, it's so expensive. And second of all, it's just like, when there's, big Marvel movies coming up, they would go and, put, double bills on, or they'll do, old school, like rescreens of like older movies. They need to do incorporate that culture maybe in India a little bit more, so that they make the experience a little more sacred, and then maybe add like merch or something to it to make it more valuable, the experience, because experiential is the only reason why music still exists and has value, right? Like people still go to gigs as opposed to listening to it at home. As in like there's a value in going out to listening to music, so they need to just create that for theaters and find a way to cut their prices a little bit or their
Can
costs down
you
so that they
riddle
can
me
still
this?
stay.
What about like in Bollywood? What about the fans of Aman Bhai and the boys that love to do a little dance and a sing song while he's doing the sing song on the screen? They don't get to do
Yeah.
that
That
at home.
already an experience? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
So
it is,
they're missing
you're
that.
right.
Do you think they're going to be flocking back the minute theaters open up? Because like, oh, thank God, I've been working on my moves for the last 3 months in quarantine with nobody to show them off.
What,
to.
you got to throw coins at your TV screen? I doubt
Exactly.
it. Or your phone?
So do you think, I mean, like you're saying, we don't have the fandom that especially like comic book movies get in the out west, with marathons and things like that. But we do have the equivalent, I would assume, with Bollywood to some extent.
We can create a fandom. There is a fandom.
You get that same energy.
Needs to
so do you think that's going to bring people back for those kind of movies?
I think, yeah, if they're smart about how they program it and how they do things, like over there, movie culture is like, it's accentuated by different kind of things, whether it's like talk shows or, or James Lipton type, kind of inside the, like there are things that are around the art of filmmaking that make it exciting to be, like podcasting or whatever it is, right? That culture here exists, but it's still very nascent. I mean, like we're still been more about the celebration of these celebrities and like going to the houses and waving, as opposed to the craft of it. Like, I think we need to inculcating that is like maybe what gets people excited about cinema. But anyway, I think
I don't know if I see what you're saying, and so there's pockets of everything, right? Like we have our own versions of curated theater runs and our own versions of like podcasts that focus on filmmaking and so on. But like you're saying, it's niche. But I feel like even if it does go mainstream, that doesn't necessarily guarantee anything for the theater going experience, because I mean, theaters in the US are struggling in spite of the fact that there is a fairly like a stronger culture, at the least, that is willing to put money down. And yet theaters like the ArcLight and stuff struggle. So it's not a guarantee. I don't think a model has been figured out yet for what theaters should do.
I don't think it's a guarantee, but I think also that the stakes that we have right now have definitely not helped. So yeah, I mean, let's see, man. I hope people can still have the purchasing power, to kind of go out and do things like movies or gigs or whatever, post this whatever inevitable recession that we're going to go through. So that's going to be a dicey one for most theater companies and just generally experiential festivals, whatever it is. So they're going to have to figure out a new model. But I'm excited about that, man. That's our generation's. That's our thing then, we have to figure that out.
Cool. Let's take a break and we'll come back. And we've talked about the release side of things. We'll talk about the production side of things on the other side of this break.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you're not following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Paytm Money. It really has been a great week this week. We've had two of our first international cricketers show up, people who have played for their respective sides. We had W.V. Raman come on Edges and Sledges, the cricket podcast. If you haven't heard that, you should be listening to that if you enjoy cricket. It's really one of the best out there. And you should also definitely check out Monty Pandithar, who showed up on Cyrus Says. That was another really interesting conversation that occurred. If you haven't been listening to a few of our shorter shows, please do that as well. Ashish Vidyarthi has been doing a great job for us. We got 30 episodes now on Begin the Journey. I think you really enjoyed that show. If you haven't listened to it, it helps you with understanding what's going on in this tough time and how to deal with it from a mental health perspective. We've also had some really fun stuff come up on the Smile India show. Shifa's been doing a lot of really good stories over there, things that just make you happy, so definitely do check that out. And on the more serious side, make sure that you're checking out our regular shows like the Pragati podcast, All Things Policy. They're definitely going to keep you up to date on what's going on in this COVID world. And with that, let's get you on with your show.
Hey guys, we're back. We're talking about, pop culture post-corona and everything that we've kind of dabbled in briefly amongst our various kind of shows and stuff, but we're giving you the definitive version of what life is like for nerds post-corona world. So Dinkar, what's next?
Production, as you know, has been halted on pretty much every single movie everywhere. But people are slowly trying to figure out how to get back. So, for example, Mission Impossible just announced that they will very likely resume shooting in September with precautions in place. Though what those precautions are going to be, nobody's very clear on yet. And they've already been pretty clear on the fact that we're making a Mission Impossible movie. There's going to be some contact.
Absolutely. And if I may put a small interesting factoid of how the Bundesliga, the only football league in the world right now currently active, is operating. It's absolutely bizarre.
With the studi audience?
So I'll tell you what. So they started like 3 weeks ago, and we've been watching the matches just because we're so starved for football. But it's been amazing. So here's what's happening. They're playing in empty stadiums, and obviously it's a contact sport, so you're gonna brush shoulders and stuff. But you're allowed 5 substitutions. Don't ask me how that's gonna help. But the moment the players run off pitch, they are given a mask and sanitizer to wash their hands. That's what happens. Yeah, it's fucking crazy. And you can hear all of the, basically just the chatter of all the football players. One thing is broken illusion about how mature we might think these players are. They're actually just 19 and 20-year-old kids just saying, ball, ball, ball. It's so funny. And we just thought there's some insane strategy happening. No, there isn't. It's just everybody's yelling for shit. But the interesting thing is that they've started sports again, man, and they're observing a
back up for a second. Explain this mask thing. You're saying they go off the pitch, put a mask on, and then when they come back on the pitch, they take the mask off?
No, they don't come back. Once they sub, right?
So you're wearing a mask when you're off the pitch.
Yeah, when you're off pitch, you're not allowed to. Yeah. So, and everyone is maintaining some kind of distance. But the players on the pitch are playing, man.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? And in America, when they broadcast the same sports, they are playing fake audience, spectators.
Nice.
Not
canned laughter, but canned cheering.
Yeah, it's canned cheering. It's weird. It's super weird. But obviously the reception that we get, the feed that we get here on Hotstar and all that stuff is just empty, and you can hear the reverb of the stadium. It's mad. So I don't know if that is the way that Marvel and all these big studios who are going ahead are going to be basically doing it with a minimal kind of setup or with really hardcore guidelines to kind of keep the shoots going. That's what I.
It might have to be a case by case situation because if nothing else, even if your crew maintains all sorts of physical distancing, the actors are going to have to be in each other's faces. So
some have to make out and shit.
True.
No more sexy time on camera.
No more sex scenes. Yeah. It's crazy. Don't tell me something.
Yeah.
Would you remember the movie Be Kind Rewind? It's one of my favorites because they invented this term called Sweded films, which are just basically the plot of the movies that they own a video store, Mos Def and Jack Black, and they erase all the VHSs by accident. So they have to recreate the movies in this really shitty way, this lo-fi way, and it becomes a hit. So it was called Sweded in that movie. But would you watch a conference call version of literally every movie that we know, like Mission Impossible or Batman or anything? That would be really funny, dude. I would watch the shit out of that.
So instead of the message self-destructing, it's a Zoom call notification that pops up saying like this call is going to end in
10 minutes.
5, 4.
Oh man, yeah.
Zoom Pro or nah?
It would be a funny thing to watch.
This has got me thinking though that like, now is when people that were already doing vlogs and like YouTube stars and whatnot could really thrive because they're like, well, we're the pros now. We rule this right now. But also on the other side of things, if big studios continue to halt production and don't put stuff out, do you think that might just like encourage people to wrap this mother up and just get their shit together and try and solve the world's problems? Because like, yo, we won't get entertainment until we solve this. What if they like use this as ransom? That's true. Why don't they try that?
We're working on it already anyway, James.
We are working on it.
Like, every little bit helps. Every little bit helps.
But the bigger question is, I think that what is the level of quality that people really need to be entertained, right? Like, I mean, yes, we love an Interstellar, and we're all waiting for Tenet releasing July 17th as of now. But the question is like, people are entertained regardless. Like you take, like Trevor Noah or any of these like late show guys, and just put them in front of a mobile phone camera and stream that. People are still watching it. Like everyone is fine with it, more so than we thought it might be, right? Like that's what's interesting to me. Yeah,
that's production quality, and so we're talking about like TV and entertainment in general. But I'm thinking about the larger cinematic worlds and like storytelling at that level, basically.
Yeah,
I don't know if production changes are as easy to stomach there. They are acceptable in a lot of ways. Like, I mean, even now, movies, like even in the past couple of years, there have been great movies that are just shot on phones that don't look great. Or like we've always been completely fine with like 16mm film and stuff, which is not, I mean, there's also a unique aesthetic to it. But productions are coming up with innovative ways to still go ahead. Like Blacklist, the James Spader starring TV show, got stuck, unable to shoot its season finale because of
that show is still on?
Dude, so it was the season 7 finale that got paused mid-production. So they animated it. They made an animated version of the season finale, and they justified it within the storytelling of the show. So it's like awesome. That rotoscoped waking life kind of vibe.
Oh shit! I'm gonna watch that. Like that's so good.
Yeah, right. Like we'll have to catch up on 7 seasons of The Blacklist first, and then watch this. So I'm good.
It's okay. But I will say this: the ultimate test really is going to be something like the Snyder Cut, which is supposed to come out 2021. Has footage, but wants to do $30 million plus more of like production or post-production. I don't know what it is. So we'll see like really what is and that's operating the highest level of like, say, cinematic, not like in terms of cinematic brilliance, but in terms of just production value.
Resources.
Yes, resources. So I'm really keen to see what can you do merely just everyone sitting at home. What's the best thing everyone can do sitting at home? And then see like, what we're capable of.
I'll echo Dee's point. I think that the notion of storytelling is what is at jeopardy at the moment. Because like you said, yes, we totally can we can quench our thirst for like entertainment with people like your Trevor Noahs and late night hosts who are used to holding a show pretty much on their own for the most part. But a lot of what they're doing, which they've always done, which was never something that we scrutinized before, was just giving commentary on the state of things, which was fine when it was like, cool, I'm going now from watching, somebody else's story that they've created called a movie where they've built a brand new narrative that didn't exist yesterday and a new set of characters that didn't exist yesterday to try and get a message across to me. And to take a break from that, I'm now going to go to a Trevor Noah to comment on the state of the world because that's a nice break. But when I have, well, not all I have, but like when the vast majority of what I have at the moment is just people like him who are very good at talking to camera, who are at the moment, I think, just a better version of a vlogger who is just commenting on reality, a far better version. If that's all I'm getting, then I'm missing storytelling. I'm missing something new. I'm missing a world to get lost in. Because all that they're doing, all that they're able to do, unfortunately, is remind us of the state of the world and how to skew our perspective to hopefully a brighter, side of it and look at a silver lining or whatever it is. So
Yeah,
that's
my
really
thing
the
would be
thing
like,
that I'm
if this was the world as we know it, like forever going forward, right? If we could never go back to an older way, would this celebrity culture or this kind of movie culture just like die, and like would it be lost forever? Like it's just like interesting to note what would be the most important thing. And we celebrate like these people and these arts and all that stuff.
I think the
But
medium
that
would
cease
change.
to be the most?
You wouldn't have like movies obviously wouldn't like okay now we're like really going off the rails with an assumption, but yeah, let's assume that this continues indefinitely and we're stuck just being isolated by ourselves. Then yeah, movies would be at stake, and then I think things like music would really have to shine because music is capable of being able to be produced remotely. But it would be things like books you'd have to go back to, where it's just like one guy with a really solid idea who really puts the time into it and like is thorough AF with what he or she's trying to say, and it's just up to them and like one other editor or a couple of editors, and that's it. But like movies, not so much.
I think we're also like, so obviously at some point in our lifetimes, I assume, things will go back to somewhere they were in, say, 2018, right? Someday. Who knows when? I'm not committing to it. I'll decide when to get rid of this virus. But what this period might do is kind of expand what we thought was possible. Like we're talking about production quality switching. I think what people can do with storytelling as well is now going to open up a little more simply because they've been forced into a corner, right? It's that necessity
limitation, man.
Mother of
it's
invention
crazy.
vibe.
Absolutely.
Like there is so there was the Blacklist. There was another TV show. It was I forget what it's called, but it's a courtroom show on American
The Practice.
No. That's the other James Spader show, isn't it?
No, that's Boston Legal.
That's Boston Legal. Amazing show.
Right. Wasn't Boston Legal a spin-off of The Practice?
It is, yeah.
Oh, is it?
And James Spader was on The Practice as well.
He was, but that was a much more serious show. And then they kind of, when they spun off.
Let's move on past The Practice.
That's because they got Denny Crane.
Yeah, of course. Dude.
What were you getting at?
Denny Crane and Murphy Brown. Anyway, so I was saying, I forget, but Simone Missick is one of the stars of that show. Simone Missick from Luke Cage.
Oh, it's called Rise? No.
Yes, All Rise.
Is it Rise?
Like the
All
Blue
Rise,
song.
Yeah. Like Blue?
Yeah, All Rise.
One for the money? All right.
That you denied? Shit, I can't remember the lyrics.
And the free ride.
And the free ride, correct.
2 for the ride that you denied.
So real life courtrooms have gone virtual now. So All Rise went ahead and shot, I think they're still shooting episodes that are virtual courtrooms where they're dealing with cases, but like real life courts are dealing with cases right now, which is everyone shooting themselves.
Dude,
this is awesome, dude. I mean, I really want to see all of these episodes.
I want to drop one of the most random anecdotes you'll ever hear me drop. Mm-hmm. In 2013, after I graduated from college, I was working at the TV studio where I spent a lot of my years in college working as an undergrad, and then I worked there full time. And it was a very tiny cable access TV studio, so genuinely think Zach Galifianakis's Between Two Ferns. Exactly that level of production value, right? Because it was for a town of 30,000 people. And I was the sole guy in charge of it when the boss was away, which was a lot of the times. And a couple of times over the summer when I was working 40 hours a week, a part of my job was once a month going to the city council and manning their like 4-camera production where I would just sit in the booth and just like watch what was essentially CCTV cameras, which were movable, which I could control, watching civil disputes and like, domestic violence cases and whatnot of like basically farmers.
C-SPAN.
It's like what?
Like C-SPAN.
Yes, exactly like C-SPAN, but even worse. And the point of this was because
Lok Sabha TV.
People that couldn't be there at these hearings, who were forced to be there for jury duty, had to then go back and watch these tapes that I would have to just sit there and hit record for, because let's face it, nobody cares about the cinematography of a civil court hearing. But that was a thing I did, and that is the thing that people are now doing for reals, because I guess that's what else you're going to do when you can't be at the meeting or at the hearing.
Wow.
End scene.
Okay, Jugs, forget everything we were talking about. That's unimportant. What is the most dramatic case you saw?
I I think it would be when there was something to do with a guy who
The people versus...
It wasn't the people versus, it was the wife versus the man. And it wasn't domestic violence.
I've heard of that one.
To do with like a car. It was a car that they were fighting over. And it was like, I had the car before we got married. Yeah, but I alimony something of the... They were just very loud and farmers, and it was very...
Sounds
you know what they should have done?
That's all. The plot wasn't great, but the performances were spectacular.
If I was the judge in that case, I would say, let's cut this car in half and give one to each. And then ideally one of them would say, no, I'd rather give the car away than see it destroyed. And I'd say, you're the guy. The car goes to you. I'm a pretty good judge.
That's a Birbal move right there.
That's a He-Man message if there ever was one at the end of it.
That's a Solomon story, but I think there's a version of it in every culture.
100%. Okay, guys. So that's the vibe, I think, for today. I think we'll call it a part one. Yeah. I think we'll call it a part one because there's definitely
there's no segue from this.
Yeah,
there might be more. Yeah, we'll know more in the next few months, and then we do a sequel.
But I'm good. I'm happy that we kind of like just did a roundup of what the state of just like theaters and streaming and distribution is for all the things that we love to watch and listen to. And so, so let's pick it up in maybe a month or so and see where the world is at. And if we're hopefully doing any better, then we'll have some better news to share as well. All right.
Thanks Can we do that one as an animated show?
Sure. It'll be animated.
Done.
But it'll just be audio though.
Can it be sock puppets?
It'll be animated audio, but then Jishnu won't consider it to be a real podcast. So
that's great. I won't have to do it then. That's all you guys. I'll be asleep. I'll enjoy it.
All right. Okay. All right. Cool. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you nerds next week.
Do you wish you were smarter? Well, so do we. But the next best thing?
We could make you sound smarter.
And to help you with this endeavor, we are Simplified, a podcast that attempts to break down the complex world around you with a little knowledge, a lot of poor jokes, and a ton of random trivia.
Episodes out every Monday.
On the IVM Podcast app or wherever you get your podcasts.
See ya!
Sachin Tendulkar, Virat Kohli, Don Bradman, and now Cyrus Brocha. Okay, probably not in the right company. I mean, Don Bradman is Australian. But it's called Cyrus Says, a wonderful show about everything. Find the show on the IVM Podcast app, ivmpodcast.com, or wherever you listen to podcasts.